with great pleasure that we invite you to take a stroll around Barcelona. Enjoy this route, which will show you even some of the tiniest details that help make the Catalan capital a special city, capable of captivating all its visitors wherever they might come from. Welcome to Barcelona. Ildefons Cerdà was the man who came up with the idea for the Barcelona that we know today, by applying what is known as the Plan Cerdà in the middle of the 19th century. Made up of square islands of houses, it has as its central axis the Paseo de Gracia, which springs from the very heart of the city, La Plaça Catalunya. Officially opened in 1927, this square has become the neuralgic center of the city. It is a classic meeting point for the Barcelonese and somewhere impossible to miss for tourists who find there an oasis of peace and relaxation, so necessary in the middle of an exhausting day's sightseeing. It's perfect for the young ones. They can play, chase after the pigeons, or feed them. As they are so used to people, they do not flee from contact. Their presence has become inseparable from the urban landscape, and on the many sunny days, they seem to make this square their very own. It is also a well-communicated spot, surrounded by shops, offices, department stores and restaurants where the visitor is well looked after by all, and especially by the Tourist Information Service, who diligently respond to any question or suggestion you might have. In another corner of the square, we can find the monument to Francesc Macià, the famed ex-president of the Generalitat Catalana, Catalonia's autonomous government. Well aware of the square's great drawing power, it is also easy to find street musicians here, like this friendly Peruvian band, who liven up the day for passers-by while trying to sell their CDs. Leaving Plaça Catalunya behind us, we now move into Passeig de Gràcia. Here we have a wide avenue, designed with rounded corners by Ildefons Cerdà, who was keeping in mind turning space for the trams, the most popular form of transport at that time, but which have now become part of the city's past. This avenue, with its blue pavements over which some of the most impressive modernist buildings in Barcelona rise, is the most admired street in the whole of Barcelona. Apart from the buildings themselves, other details, such as the curved benches or the wrought iron lampposts, the work of Pere Flaquers, coexist in perfect harmony with shops, cinemas, restaurants, fast food establishments, and fashion shops that always offer the latest in international design. All of this and much more make this avenue one of the most cosmopolitan in the world. Next to Passeig de Gràcia, in Carrer Aragó, we find a building that was originally a publishing house, built by the architect Lluís Domènech i Montaner in 1885. Today, this building houses the foundation bearing the name of the renowned Barcelona artist Antoni Tàpies. The building of red brick is crowned with an original sculpture made from aluminium tubing. Use your imagination. It is a chair resting on a cloud. Once more in Passeig de Gràcia, we come upon the Casa Batlló, one of the most beautiful buildings in Barcelona, the work of Antoni Gaudí. They say that the roof was designed in homage to the myth of St. George, the cross and the dragon's back. The balconies, resembling carnival masks, must have surprised even Mr. Batlló himself, who commissioned Gaudí to design him a house that was the most spectacular in the street. Right next to the Casa Batlló and rivaling it in beauty is the Casa Ametller, built by Josep Puig i Cadafalch in 1900. The original red-layered roof is a surprise, in clear contrast to the predominantly white facade of the building. On the same side of the street, Domènech i Montaner built the Casa Lleó i Morera in 1905. Of great architectural beauty, it houses inside the best examples there are of multicolored modernist stained glass. This seated lady, impassively observing what is going on in the city, is another clear example of the architectural delights that can surprise us in any nook or cranny of this avenue. To make sightseeing easier, Barcelona offers its visitors an open-top bus service known as the Bus Turístic, which travels around the most emblematic points of the city. And so we arrive at La Casa Milà, another work by the unrivaled Antoni Gaudí, whom Pere Milà entrusted with its construction in 1906. Built on the corner of Carrer Provença, it is popularly known as La Pedrera, or rock pile, the name given to it by the Barcelonese. Observe the originality in the wrought ironwork and the total absence of any straight lines in all of the house. We recommend a guided tour of the interior and of the roof. You will not be disappointed. Moving over towards the right on Carrer Rosselló, we arrive at another of Barcelona's principal arteries, the Avinguda Diagonal. Here we can find another modernist building which strikes us with its majesty. Although we could well believe it to be a medieval castle, it is in fact the Casa de les Punches, the Puig i Cadafalch. Look carefully at the beautiful finish and the perfect integration of the mosaic with the brick, characteristic elements of the modernist style. Going further into the right-hand side of the ensanche, we arrive at the Avinguda de Gaudí, where, rising majestically before us, we have his most famous work, La Sagrada Familia, a religious temple famous the world over. Something that is much more than a mere monument for the city. It is its pride, its emblem. What is probably not known by most is that Gaudí took on responsibility for this project in 1833 when work had already started. Realizing that this was his big opportunity, Gaudí decided not to follow the original plans, and he gave free rein to his creative imagination, which meant having to deal with lawsuits brought by his predecessor, Francisco Villar. The monument is still unfinished, given that as it is an expiatory temple, it can only be financed by donations. Gaudí himself, in the hope of seeing the building finished in 1896, went from door to door asking the people of the city to contribute. For this reason, and following on with the tradition, those who are now responsible for the work go out into the streets asking for donations from citizens, companies and institutions who never refuse to give money for this monumental project. Tracing a downwards route, we come to Carrer de Casp, where at number 52 we find La Casa Calvet. This is the most conventional of Gaudí's works, the least Gaudian of all his constructions. But curiously, this building, raised in 1899, was the only one for which Gaudí received an award, which was given by Barcelona's town hall. Nowadays, along with all the work of this distinguished architect, it has been declared a city heritage site and as such is protected. Now nearing the limits of the ensanche at the end of the Passeig de Sant Joan, we come to l'Arc de Triomphe, which was built as the gateway to the first Universal Exhibition of Barcelona, which took place in 1888. Beautiful modernist-style lampposts line the entire Passeig Lluís Companys, another well-respected president of the Generalitat de Catalunya. The arch, of Roman dimensions, is built of bricks that are clearly mudéjar in style. At the end of the avenue, a statue to Rius i Taulet can be found. He was one of the best mayors the city has ever had, and driving force behind the Universal Exhibition. Immediately behind us, there is the entrance to one of the best-known parks in the city, El Parque de la Ciutadella. In 1716, Felipe V of Bourbon ordered that a fortified citadel should be built with the aim of keeping an eye on the Barcelonese, whom he did not trust. Once inside, we can visit another building by the architect Domenici Montaner, Castell dels Tres Dracs, which is now the city's zoological museum. In the park, there are also other magnificent things to see, La Gran Cascada and also the city zoo, where the undisputed star is Snowflake, an albino gorilla, unique in the world and very well loved by locals. The Catalan Parliament and the famous Dama del Paraguas that also has a place in everyone's heart. Circling the park, we come to the Port Olympic. This is the clearest example of the transformation Barcelona underwent for the 1992 Olympic Games. On the ruins of a dark and dismal industrial area, a more modern complex, one full of light and life, was built, which was to be used as accommodation for sportsmen and referees taking part in these games. It was also where most of the nautical events took place. It has become a great leisure centre, with a marina, beaches, typical seafood restaurants, shopping centres, fashionable bars, and with non-stop nightlife that is the delight of the city's young people. It is the most modern area of the city and has the two highest skyscrapers in the whole of Spain, La Torre Mapfre and the luxurious Hotel Arts. A curious sculpture can be found at the base of the towers. It is a gigantic metallic fish, the work of the Canadian Frank Garl. This new city area, known as Villa Olímpica, is admired by all its visitors, who will surely never forget its daring sculptures or the happy moments they spent there. On returning to the centre of the city, we find ourselves fully in the traditional port of Barcelona. This is the old Moll de la Fusta, the wood quay, which has today been transformed into a maritime promenade. Here we can find this curious sculpture, a prawn, the work of Javier Mariscal. In this area, the large terrace restaurants allow us to try out the best specialities in fish and seafood. Very close to this area of the port, there is the Basilica de la Mercè, the patron saint of the city and the scene of formal ceremonies and offerings. Making our way towards the old quarter along Via Laietana, we reach the spot where El Palau de la Música is to be found. Without doubt the most outstanding of Domenici Montaner's works, and a point of reference for Catalan music. This is a spectacular building and also boasts an architectural award from Barcelona's town hall. In homage to the universe of music, busts of the most famous musical composers in history, Mozart, Wagner, Beethoven and Verdi, appear on the facade of the building. Just look at the originality of the ticket booths and the impressive interior, where the most important musical events take place. Even Woody Allen, after a clarinet concert here in 1997, admitted that he was really impressed by the building's beauty. The Palau is the home of the owner and principal tenant of this building, El Orfeo Català, the massed choir of the Barcelonese, founded in the last century by Lluís Millet together with Amadeu Vives. The former, whose statue can be found in one of the entranceways, was the principal force behind this popular musical movement. The statue was erected in homage to his dedicated and continued work in favor of this institution. Just behind us, on the other side of the road, we can see that Barcelona still conserves a great part of the walls that circled the old city in Roman times. Not all of the walls are visible, however, given that some stretches of wall were used in their day in the construction of buildings in the area known as the Barrio Gótico. The maze of narrow streets that make up the Gothic quarter all seem to lead to some square or other. One of the most regal is the Plaza del Rey. The importance of this square is that an important historical event took place here. Christopher Columbus was received here by the Catholic King and Queen Ferdinand and Isabel on returning from his first expedition to the Americas, and was accompanied by the first natives of America to set foot on the old continent. Many important cultural events are held here, and there is also an interesting museum. Continuing our route through the Gothic quarter, we find ourselves in another well-known street, El Carrer del Bisbe, which, with its famous neo-Gothic gallery, opens out into La Plaza de San Jaume. Face to face in this square are the two most important buildings in the city, the autonomous government of Catalonia and the Barcelona town hall. On Sundays and holidays, the sardana, that most typical of Catalan dances, is traditionally danced, and the no less famous human towers are raised, showing us how by working together a common goal can be achieved. On the edge of the Gothic quarter we find a cathedral. Work began at the end of the 12th century but was prolonged until 1450. The facade is the most modern part of the building, dating from the 19th century. A new bell is about to be installed, which will complete the notes needed for the bell tower's peal. In 1997, this cathedral was the focus of world attention when the marriage of the Infanta Cristina de España took place here. Continuing our stroll towards the Ramblas, halfway there we come across another charismatic square known as La Plaza del Pi. Many artists, some unknown and others of recognized talent, exhibit their works here, creating in this way a multicolored, free and easy bohemian atmosphere. Finally, we arrive at the famous Barcelona Ramblas, running from Plaza de Catalunya to the port. It is a street that is unrivaled anywhere in the world, given the diversity of its people, the local color and abundance of its shops that can not only meet all your shopping needs, but also your relaxation requirements at any time of the day. There are always interesting people on the Ramblas, dancers, music hall artists and street musicians, like this one who is playing a barrel organ that could really play itself. At the top of the Ramblas we can find La Font de Canaletas, of which it is said that he who drinks of its waters will always return to Barcelona. This fountain is also famous for being the place where supporters of the mighty Barcelona football club gather to celebrate their team's victories. Another classic of the Ramblas is its newsstands that never close, and where newspapers and magazines from all over the world can be found, as well as postcards and souvenirs of all types. In recent times, there has been a proliferation of the intriguing so-called living statues who only move when they hear the tinkle of a coin being dropped in the tin lying at their feet. We are dealing with true artists who have managed to dominate the technique of immobility with such mastery. The typical bird stands are another Ramblas classic. A great variety of exotic birds can be acquired here, along with fish, small reptiles and rodents, turning this area into a little zoo that delights both young and old. In clear contrast to the bustling Ramblas is the serene tranquility that can be experienced in some of the streets lying close by. A clear example is La Carré de Petrixol, famous for its dearly loved afternoon tea establishments. Back in the Ramblas and standing on the famous mosaic designed by Joan Miró, we discover the Gran Teatro del Liceo. This opera house, a temple to lyrical music, was inaugurated in 1847 and has throughout its history been home to some of the best opera singers in the world. Unfortunately, in 1994, a devastating fire razed it to the ground. But at present, reconstruction work is going ahead at full steam, and soon the curtain will rise once again and all of Barcelona will once more be able to enjoy the mythical Teatro del Liceo. Another enchanting part of the Ramblas is known as La Rambla de las Flores because of the flower stalls found in this area. All of them have their regular customers, either individuals or companies, who year after year, day after day, come to collect their orders. All types of flowers and plants can be found here, both local and imported varieties. Just look at the beauty and color of these flowers that are so loved by the Catalans. The market of San Josep, popularly known as La Boqueria, is a metallic structure, the work of Josep Mas y Vila, and it is the most important market in the city, to which thousands of people come every day to do their shopping, regardless of which part of the city they might live in. It is interesting to see how much effort the stall holders in this traditional market put in order to present their products to their customers in the finest manner possible. It is therefore quite normal to hear the words, "What you can't find here, you can't find anywhere." As a measure of the city's tolerance, political parties also have a stand on the Ramblas. Look at this graffiti, which says, "Let the king get a job." Surrounded by neoclassical buildings, this pedestrian square, the Plaza Real, is almost attached to the Ramblas, so much so that we can say it forms part of the whole. The lampposts that flank the central fountain were designed by Gaudí, as can be seen by their very particular structure. With the passing of time and the intervention of the town council, this square has little by little lost its fame as being a stopping-off place for delinquents, drug pushers and petty criminals. It is today a place that is nearly always busy and invites us to stay a while in one of the many terrace bars nestling under its porches, to have a refreshing drink while watching the comings and goings of the great variety of passers-by. Like all great cities, Barcelona has a wax museum, which is situated on the Ramblas and where the most illustrious figures from Catalan history, world history and the world of fiction are immortalized. Its originality, together with its interactive and audio-visual staging, make it a definite must for all visitors to the city, whether they be from home or abroad. In contrast to the idea of tradition, which is common along the whole of the Ramblas, at the very bottom we find this spectacular colossus of offices, which even has a heliport on the roof, thereby attesting to the city's adaptation to the nearby port area's new logistic needs. This iron column, some 50 meters in height, supports the figure of the mythical Christopher Columbus, the discoverer of America. The column is the work of Gaietà Biogas and was built to commemorate the Universal Exhibition of 1888. Inside there is a lift that takes us to the very top. At the foot of the column, the pedestal is surrounded by bronze lions who seem to be protecting this historic character. It is yet another emblem of the city. After our colourful walk down the Ramblas, we now arrive at the port of Barcelona, to be more precise, to the area known as Port Vell. This is another area that has benefited from the Olympic renovation that the city has undergone, and particularly because of the desire to open the city to the sea, so that its inhabitants could better enjoy it. The Maremagnum is the most attractive leisure centre in Barcelona, with its immense galleries full of fashionable bars, restaurants, discotheques, mini-golf and shops. One of the port's best-loved attractions are the golondrinas, boats that have been adapted so that Barcelona can be seen from the sea whilst enjoying a leisurely cruise around the port. Children love them, and for many it is their first taste of the pleasure of sailing. As this is one of the busiest tourist spots in the city, notice the huge number of the classic black and yellow city taxis waiting to pick up passengers before once more returning to the hustle and bustle of the hectic city traffic. It is precisely at this point that the traffic is at its densest, given that on the Cinturón del Litoral, the port's industrial traffic joins the more regular city traffic. Here too we can find the IMAX, the only cinema in the world that combines 3 large format projection systems onto a huge screen with 3D and surround sound. One of the 2 largest aquariums in Europe, and this walkway called the Rambla del Mar, which leads us across to Maremagnum over the waters of the Mediterranean. And for those with a head for heights, you could summon up courage and take the cable car up to the Mount of Jews, the mountain of Montjuic, by taking a marvelous trip across the port, from where you can see it in all its splendor, together with huge, luxurious ocean liners, and also the industrial side of harbour life. Taking the Cinturón del Litoral, we turn off to the right to go up through the Miramar Gardens to the highest point of Montjuic mountain. From the Montjuic hillside, all the city can be seen, and it is there that we find another interesting tourist spot, El Castell de Montjuic. Built in 1640, General Espartero, instead of using it to defend the city, bombarded the city from here after a bourgeois uprising. The castle, which is a relic of the forts of yesteryear, today houses a military museum of great historical and educational content. We would like to remind you not to forget your cameras or video recorders, as this visit and the places surrounding the castle are really very interesting. On our way down from the castle, we find a really unusual monument. It is a homage to the sardana, which, as we explained, is the most typical Catalan dance, and it is here immortalized in stone. Next to this monument, there is one of the city's amusement parks, which, being practically within the city itself, is very popular. Also, we can see here some beautiful gardens known as El Mirador del Alcalde. The mountain of Montjuic underwent radical change after Barcelona was chosen as host city for the 1992 Olympics. The Olympic Ring was created, a collection of buildings destined to house the Games' main events. The Olympic Stadium was built in 1929 by Luis Domènech i Rovira, and to ready it for the Olympic events of '92, the interior was completely remodeled whilst the original facade was respected. At the moment, it is home to the Barcelona Dragons, the city's American football team, and the Real Club Deportivo Español de Barcelona, one of the two oldest clubs in the Spanish Soccer League. Today, the stadium has its doors open for anybody who wants to visit it, and it forms part of all the organized day trips that come to the city, of foreign as well as national tourists. For this reason, one can always see a huge array of coaches from here, there and everywhere parked just outside. In the very center of the Olympic ring, a huge structure rises majestically, the Torre Calatrava. It is in fact a colossal communications tower, 115 meters in height, created by Santiago Calatrava. But without doubt, the jewel of this complex is the Palau Sant Jordi, built by the Japanese architect Arata Isozaki. It stands out because of its polyvalence, given that its stands are mobile, thus permitting many different sporting events to take place here. Basketball, athletics, ice skating. It can also be filled with water for an exhibition of water scooters or of windsurfing. Its excellent acoustics also enable it to host any kind of large-scale concert. Created for the Second International Exhibition of Barcelona in 1929, the Pobla Español is an enclosure in which buildings, streets and squares, typical of different areas of Spain, have been recreated. We can begin our walk in a civilian street that will lead us into a Castilian square and then go on into a Galician courtyard. The transit of any kind of vehicles, be they ancient or modern, is expressly forbidden within the confines of the Pueblo Español. Within the village, there are typical restaurants from all the different regions of Spain, souvenir shops and craft workshops in full view of the public, where it is possible to acquire true works of art of many different styles. Let us recommend once more that you visit. It is wonderful. In the middle of a luxuriant garden, we find the Teatre Grec de Barcelona. It is an authentic reproduction of a classical ancient Greek theatre. It was created in 1929 by Ramon Raventos. Because it is open air, it is only used in summer, when many artistic events of all styles take place, including musical ones. At the foot of Montjuic, once we have left the mountain, we find La Plaza de España. Above its central fountain, there is another flame holder, which was also kept alight all through the Olympic Games. Along the avenue, flanked by two Venetian-style towers, many international trade fairs and exhibitions take place. At the end of the avenue rises the magnificent Palacio Nacional. The Plaza de Toros, along with other monuments, can also be seen. And finally, we must not forget the famous illuminated fountains with their spectacular sonne-lumière effects. Leaving Plaza España behind us, we go towards the upper part of the city, arriving at El Barri de los Corts, in which we find the Nou Camp, home stadium to Barcelona Football Club, known internationally as Barça. Because of its modernity and capacity, 110,000 spectators, it is one of the most spectacular football stadiums in the world. Inside the grounds, there is the Museo del Barça, one of the most visited in the city, and nearby the shops which sell every type of product imaginable that is related to the club's colours. Continuing upwards, we arrive once again at Diagonal, but now in the Barri de Pedralbes stretch, the most residential and expensive part of the city. Here we have the Palau de Pedralbes, built for King Alfonso XIII between 1919 and 1929 for his stays in the city. Today, you may walk through its leafy gardens, adorned with fountains and beautiful sculptures, until you reach the palace itself, where you can visit its luxurious interior. Very near the palace, La Finca Güell is to be found. A work of Gaudi's, it was built in 1887, and the style of this genial architect is instantly recognizable. The gate is a homage to the legendary garden of the Hesperides, where Hercules faced the dragon. Inside the enclosure, Gaudí was also responsible for the design of the stables for Mr. Güell's horses. He was one of the richest men in the city and a patron of the arts and architecture. In clear contrast to the architectural monumentalism of the city, Barcelona also has a great number of up-to-date buildings that shape the look of the newer residential areas and that also house the city's most modern and sophisticated offices. This demonstrates the great economic and industrial pulse of Barcelona, putting it on a par with the world's most important cities. Not in vain is Barcelona highly valued by all investors and international businessmen for its situation and climate. Staying in the upper part of the city, but moving well over to the right, we come to the Barri de Gracia, the Carré de las Carolinas. In 1878, Manuel Vicens, a manufacturer of ceramic tiles, commissioned Gaudí to build a summer house. This was the promising debut of a young, recently qualified Gaudí. Though this was his first work, his peculiar talent and style was already being noticed, and this led to him being considered as the maximum exponent of Catalan modernism. And, as you will have seen, his work began to spread all over the city. On the upper limits of the Barri de Gracia, we find another original spot, El Parc Güell. Gaudí was contracted to build once again for the wealthy Mr. Güell, this time a garden city on land that Güell had bought with the intention of making it the city's first residential development. But faced with the failure of only having sold one plot, he decided to change it into an original park for the city. That was the birth of what is today the Parc Güell, gardens in which the genius Gaudí managed to integrate nature into his architecture. Famous worldwide, This is another obligatory visit for all those who enjoy contemplation of harmonious lines and the beauty of the surroundings. Going up to the highest point in the city, we reach the Massís de Collserola, and at its highest point, the mountain of Tibidabo. Here we find the Temple of the Sacred Heart, presided over by an enormous statue of Christ that can be seen from many different parts of the city. With his arms open wide, he seems to be welcoming all the inhabitants of the Barcelona region, which from this vantage point can practically all be seen. Taking advantage of the mountain heights, the Observatory Fabra was installed here a long time ago. This colossal communications tower, the Torre de Collserola, was also built here for the Olympics. Rising to a height of 300 meters, it is the work of Norman Foster. In recent times, it too has become a new emblem of the city's skyline. From this observation platform, an old attraction in the dearly loved Tibidabo Fun Fair, the whole of this immense city that we have traveled through together can be seen. By going up there, we can be 50 meters higher than the highest point on the mountain. This newly renovated fun fair dates from the last century and has a place in the hearts of all Barcelonese. Its charm is based on the fact that the old, naive attractions of the past coexist happily with the most spectacular and daring rides of the present. Barcelona, a modern and open city, European and Mediterranean. A city where you will find great nightlife with places to suit all tastes and all tendencies. A continuous party. All of this will give you a burning desire to come back. And Barcelona will be waiting for you.
Знаете что, когда будем там проходить под водопадами, именно под водопадами, через пещеры, там в нескольких местах капает, знаете, вода, но оно чистое. И чтобы сказать, что вы там намочитесь, ну, мало брызги какие-то, да? Но если кому-то холодно и это что-нибудь накинет, тоже ничего, не так холодно будет. Но там капает немножко. Потому что пещеры все проходят под высоким
pa' que tu gente no quiera lo bonito que queda.
домой подарки на весну. Да. А вот есть вот справа. Смотрите. С кем вы спите? Запомните, с кем вы спите? Ну что вы спите? Да. Помните, стоит бедный. Ну, не правильно. Понимаете, какой истории?
De mi infancia son el atardecer sanguinario en mi jardín, un rubí de novia. Son madonas desvergonzadas, son mujeres piosas y putas que nos ocultan el deseo de soñar amor con las mentiras tentadoras de sus tiernos ojos maternos. Mujeres gordas y bellas son mujeres diosas y putas, son tan salvajes, tan maduras y desnudas en mi memoria, las de la traición, las que se van dejándonos a jamás perdidos, son madonas desvergonzadas que rechazan todas caricias que nos ocultan el deseo de soñar al amor con las mentiras tentadoras de sus tiernos ojos maternos, maternos. Las palomas generosas cantándonos la santa libertad, las chicas locas, dolorosas y cálidas como piel de tuna, son mujeres gordas y bellas, son mujeres diosas y putas, son el gran placer, el origen del sollozo de mi infancia, son el atardecer sanguinario en mi jardín, un rubí de novia, son madonas desvergonzadas, son mujeres piosas y putas que nos ocultan el deseo de soñar amor con las mentiras tentadoras de sus tiernos ojos materno.
Нет. На пенсию выйдешь, точно. Точно.
Ну вот можешь вот так вот пойти.
Он весь не влезает.
Ну тогда не делай, я сделаю.
Вот так вот.
Узоры и
на узу. Абсолютно. Здесь еще с древних вот этих времен, когда уже христианские они делают парадные шествия, все заказывают абсолютно все оружие именно здесь. И поэтому знаменит он дамаскинский. И сейчас я вам покажу, продемонстрирую зал экспозиционный, где работает. Позолоченное, не инкрустированное, оно позолотка. Но хорошая проба, оно не... И, конечно, есть разные шаржи. Что это сувенирное, и при приезде дома вы можете его потом, если сделать, убивать.
Точить не надо будет всю жизнь.
Но очень...
Hola, Tere. Gracias,
Habla español,
Siempre dice igual que venía
Feliz mi alegre vivir, todo luz, risas y esperanzas. No volveréis a mí. Si con fuerza en mi pecho envió la llama del pesar, desamor, llanto y amargura, solo podré alcanzar. Eres mi mujer, la que yo quiero, y a ti solo di mi corazón. Yo no sé fingirte ni pensé en la traición, ni sabré mentirte nunca con mi pasión. Si sufro callando, respeta el silencio. Hablar no es posible, pues debo callar, y a ver si es tormento sufrir sin hablar. aquella paz que gocé. El tiempo feliz ya no ha de volver, el bienestar que sentí. Por siempre se fue la luz de mi ilusión, la vida toda que alienta mi
They are not nice, they're mostly noise. They swear like men, they screw like boys. I know there's nothing in their heart, but every time I take one in my arms, it starts a movie in my life, the dream they leave behind, a scene I can't erase, and in a strong G.I.'s embrace, leave this life, leave this place, plays and prays, the scream before we feel. He takes me to New York, he gives me dollar bills. Our children laugh all day, they eat too much ice cream, and life is like a gathering my love tonight, the movie in my I will not cry, I will not faint. I'll do my dance, I'll make them drink. When I make love, it won't be me. And if they hurt me, I'll just close my eyes and sleep. A movie in my mind, a dream that fills my head, a man who will not kill, who fight for me instead. He'll keep us safe all day, so no one comes at night to blow the dream away. Dream, the dream I have tonight, the movie in my world that's far away, where life is not unkind. The movie in my
Flying adored, so young, the instant queen, a rich, beautiful thing of all the times, a cross between a fantasy of the bedroom and a saint. someone on top of the world. The view is not exactly clear. A shame you did it all at 26. There are no mysteries now. Nothing can thrill you. No one would thrill you. Flying your door. I hope you come to terms with boredom. So famous, so easily, so soon. It's not the wisest thing to be. You wonder if they love you. It's been done before. You despair if they hate you. You'll be drained of energy. All the young who've made it would agree.
That won't let us feel in a life where nothing seems real. I have found you. I have found you. In a world that's moving too fast, in a world where nothing can last, I will hold you. Our lives will change when tomorrow comes. Orpheus vám děkuje za návštěvu. Nashledanou.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Orpheus Agency thanks you for your visit.